More than any one person or principle, it was a place, or at least the idea of a place, that formed the bedrock of Ronald Reagan's character. Even well into his 80s, he could still summon up a movie's worth of memories that cast a resonant glow on his Midwestern upbringing. The seemingly boundless cornfields, studded with grain elevators jutting into the stratosphere, the daily caravan of boxcars rumbling over miles of newly laid track, carrying staples through the heartland, the seductive and moody Rock River, whose treacherous cross-currents challenged him as a teenage lifeguard, the modest wood-framed family homes surrounded by white picket fences, the scenic prairie roads he hitchhiked, from Dixon to Kewanee, Danville, Rock Island, and Davenport. My hometown was a small town, and everybody knew everyone else, he recalled near the end of his life. In his case, hometown was a composite of his best recollections of the whistle stops the Reagan family made as they migrated fitfully across Illinois and Iowa, from Tampico to Galesburg to Monmouth to Dixon. Ronald Reagan clung to a story of his Midwestern childhood that he described as one of those rare Huck Finn Tom Sawyer idyls. In fact, Ronald Reagan's upbringing owed more to the moodier, crisis-filled sagas of, say, Willa Cather or Upton Sinclair than to Mark Twain. Granted, there are many heartwarming chapters to his family history, but they are interrupted by long passages of strife and great hardship. Ronald Reagan had little to go on when it came to his ancestry. The sketchy Reagan lineage that stretched back to 19th century Ireland and Scotland. In a 1987 letter to Hollywood friends, he said, "I've never known anything about my father's family," lamenting the gaps in his family history. His great-grandfather, Michael Reagan, with his wife, Catherine, and their 3 children, Thomas, John, and Margaret, stepped off the cargo ship Joseph Gilchrist in Lower Manhattan in 1857. Others in the sickly, penniless O'Regan family, spelled O''Regan, the original spelling of the family name, held on in Doulis, a mud gash of an Irish village just 12 sod and stone huts west of Ballyporeen below the Galtee Mountains. But Doulis held no future for Michael, the bright and ambitious potato farmer's son, one of the few local men able to read and write. London was his first gateway to opportunity. When he turned 22, Michael made a beeline for the British capital, where he landed in an Irish ghetto in the Peckham district. He wasn't alone in his quest. Throughout the 1850s and 1860s, thousands of refugees from the widening Irish potato famine squeezed into Victorian London, relegated to a warren of overrun slums. North Peckham was particularly squalid, marked by high unemployment, rampant crime, raw sewage, and the inevitable cholera outbreaks that swept through the neighborhood, ravaging the population. Michael O'Regan, who took shelter in a boarding house with 12 fellow Irishmen at 24 Benley Street, proved luckier than many of his mates. He found steady work in a soap factory, earning enough to save a few shillings each payday. A year after Michael settled in London, he met Catherine Mulcahy, a gardener's laborer 6 years his senior, who lived in a boarding house directly across the street. Catherine was an iron-willed woman, escaping her own sorry circumstances. Her 3 uncles were notorious scoundrels, overly familiar with the inside of Irish jails. 2 brothers had earned their stripes by teaming up in a pub brawl that ended with a death, while the 3rd brother, James, a notorious game poacher, was arrested for an act of barbarity and atrocity, in which he ripped the wool off the backs of living sheep. Leaving home, an extraordinary step for a young Irishwoman, gave Catherine a new purchase on life. On May 15, 1852, she gave birth to her first son, Thomas, and 5 months later, on October 31st, Michael O'Regan and Catherine Mulcahy made it official, marrying at St. George the Martyr, a Catholic church in Southwark. Michael signed the marriage certificate Reagan, spelled Reagan, instead of O'Regan, an act that forever altered the family name. Catherine merely scrolled an X on the space provided.